So how to reveal peace in Palestine and Ukraine instantly is by realizing there's a breaching method involved and has been involved since before our founders were born at modern countries A through Z. In America, still they have self-value collusions. The people countering the syntax and the nature of the people of the sciences, and with the nature of the names of the people of the sciences, and their syntax countering the people countering them as collusion slash S2 with a breaching method and with exceptions as collusion faking exceptions and or using them tactical ulterior from how nature shows them to be used relative to a special difference also as guide to answers that we have been forbid free speech offensively since we were kids. In other words, and they're doing this distinctly every year in the grouped years, but not but non-distinctly. For a breaching method and has had collusion slash S with everyone again, replacing why and how our founders plural had declassified for us to understand why and how they had the context store everyone else. And the only one of them that we know the name of specifically is James Madison. We were not supposed to entertain people sensing for the breaching method self-value collusion slash S, pretending others were our founders, and leaving out and replacing how James Madison's plan and plural founders forced everyone to help. Even though it was against the law too many ways that ain't no one could help to, but without leaving even slavery entrenched. That wasn't for our founders. That was per the entrenchment method. That was also already entrenched at those countries. At least we could discern that with where and how we could discern all that you have learned about the North and the South, for example, with the Civil War and with the American Revolution, that have replaced what our founders have known. It's known. But the breaching method showed the names of the people, the sciences that they have to hide this behind their back. Self-valid obfuscations and collusion slash S with use of location slash S. That was his hyper additionally too. From use of location slash S with that no one wanted collusions with. But that was only permitted. So no one ever discerned what was his hyper sophistication right through this. Many with Central Connecticut State University have remote uses of the senses and sensibilities that only allowed people allowed to be heard with the news media and with other alternative forms of media, and with exceptions. Their collusions with planting fake transcripts, with wire crime methods, also with the people who answer their phones, and collusions with the difference of guilt. They play hear no evil, see no evil. And that's why they have relative delusions that we have to address too. See, right where we have to have things like delusions addressed and things like crimes and punishment, those people were our collusions with the crime scenes and with names at and next to each of the campuses. All ages and natures of them too, including fire campuses and medical campuses, are recorded how maintained criminally foreign influence slash worse and tactical delusions wrought. All kinds of concentrated corruption with location slash S also became manifest at other locations because nature demonstrates that, like the prisons. But they had already been collusion slash S. So they value that having been and being. Where and how there was that deeper than. But while as only allowed to be sophistication of those countries that were leveraged upon our Native Americans and through ourselves as non-Native Americans, are the ones who were here. And are we labeled white, for example, or black, or brown or etc. Without it being about why we have black pupils, whites of eye, how we are shown that. For example, sharks have black pupils, whites of eyes, and it is generated by that which is neither us nor them. And while all exceptions come with demonstration slash that's the same thing, there's a further distinct identity as nature's, but also as the rest of its complete nature that's too great to fit with temporary slash lasting space nature, while it is another way to finite, and while it is another way with active relativity beyond us. And like for example, with those our ability to appreciate subjects individually and or finite and grouped and or active and simultaneous and or progressive. We are a human species body of individual bodies with all group differences as a trinity, where it has three identities of relationship to itself, only increasing value. Here, or it is forced from here, as forced space nature transfer, not as death, although it leads to death, even of the other species bodies, even of the body of the ocean. The entire ocean is polluted with all kinds of ways by humanity. Even in the fish, where they can't speak about it because there's no other means to food. Even when they had subject treatments like food and things like that, everyone's locked into the torture, extortion, fact, human nature, slavery method. Therefore, physically, you guys speak about debts. You can't even speak about American history. You don't have control of your campuses. They are replacing what's and faking what's recorded at campuses that are filmed 24/7. The breaching methods collusion with its use of databases, and then further the ones of the campus marcias and the names associated with it. All that was is used remotely. Criminally foreign influence slash hypercriminally foreign influence boxing that teach us things below. Boxing. Please get me off the fake conversations with CBS and get the interbranch on paper. Get me off the fake conversations with them. Increasingly interbranch families with multiple police departments in the same house slash S tied to them. With child abusers using kids years apart, first forced, or overt criminal enterprises, private ones, people involved with the World Trade Center attacks, their cousins. Get them the heck on paper. Fear. Who disbelieves. They got violence involved, weapons involved, poisons involved, confessions involved too. No. This breaching method had them making confessions to everyone relative to how everyone was making and is making confessions to the hyper form that measures and maintains self-value collusion slash S with other things others ourselves blame for its roles with how slavery was sickly distinctly, but it was also sickly non-distinctly northern counties and southern counties already entrenched, only permitted. Suffrage of women the same. The motivations for it, anything or others ourselves, besides the breaching method, had to be blamed. And the roles with it. And unless blaming it, the roles on it the way it needs and needed, because it orchestrated that to keep itself. Nature itself shows us all those multi-front human differences attacks on them were equally about a human fact, human nature breaching method. To solve this, we need to have free speech. We still have news that it's collusions with organized crimes and with organized crimes methods, like wire crime methods, mail crime methods, collusions, relative to their wire crime acts methods, collusions. And then further with their phones over the phones. And these are interagencies. And the differences of guilt between themselves, the other countries they have involved with those same ones, and locations, their family members, their fake motives. They even bring their little kids to fake their motives because it's all about there was one of the things that they've been doing dishonestly. We have collusions with names on all sides of cases, the news, the crime scenes, the body dumping spots next to campuses, right when and how they have roles with then and further with organized crimes with kids, child abusers, sexual, medical. The families are the ones involved with the little kids. Female judges, everyone speaking to others, a little rat trap. Abused them since they were kids. Incapable of speaking for even James Madison, our only founder we're supposed to know the name of individually. Then when people go to blame our founders for slavery, they have to blame James Madison. Meanwhile, James Madison detailed how he wanted nothing to do with slavery, how and why nobody had free speech, how and why they couldn't even declassify, to let us know the names of the other founders. But we know president/chief, regardless of what the narrative is, that revealed chief, distinct from president, but bound to it, and with a slash between. For example, even though it's not written that way, I don't know if it is. But in other words, because three natures, another identity of hyper invisible but still discernible, just like three parts of time, the future, the seasons that are not here now, even if they never get here again, even the end of this season doesn't come. It is only increasing value because they are bound by and only semi-as the complete identity of nature. Boxing is what makes a shush to hear, and or it prefers the shush sound. Boxing, martial arts, semi prefer the shush sound, and wrestling does not prefer the shush sound. And they are grouped. We're how nature uses us, uses a means to show us that it is generating all group differences, and or we are using abridged systems. The moment we will be, while we are, and when we were, it demonstrates that too. Little kids had the means to discern from the youngest ages what it means. So, if we all learn it together at the same time, then we all instantly learn because it's easy to learn. Besides, for how there are collusions with the names of the people of sciences, including of the law. Not just the word like criminal foreign influences, but hyper criminal foreign influences. Part of the reason they got away with leaving out criminal foreign influences that are clearer than day. One of the things that were about that all that was about is because there was also hyper criminal foreign influences involved, specifically then to keep now people only capable of and reliant upon things like criminal foreign influences blamed right where how nature never stopped showing us the increasing needs to blame hypercriminal foreign influences. That which had slavery, for example, entrenched North and South sickly distinctly, but also non-distinctly. And even though no one wanted collusions with /s with such, it was only permitted. And also to blame other things, others ourselves, the cause of it. Our founders, James Madison detailed the cause of it. And how everyone would have to make the subject treatments, leaving out how nature uses exception, nature, and special difference, leaving out all the collusion /s. It's everything with the overt criminal enterprises and private ones. Private ones have collusions. Bill, all the campuses hyper additionally, with what really most furthers the overt criminal enterprises, private ones. Positions countering such, guised as such, but actually as such. and relative to how black people's rights survive. In the predicate acts with facts method, clearer than day. Method slash S, collusion slash S, clearer than day that we could discern since we are kids. How that's pretended other and it's gotten away with. It's not just about we don't have free speech to that. The people who do that and prevent us free speech regarding what we call being actually recorded at the campuses. One of the things involved with the child abuses is a method that relies upon predicate acts methods, like pretending things were recorded at campuses, filmed 24/7, with no one checking. This breaching made them only capable of being knaves, with streams of people coming into courts that already had collusion slash yes with all the natures of crime scenes they can't afford to have discerned. Why there's a witch trials place next to Webb House. Why it's and how it's now renamed the Webb Stevens Museum. And then and now sickly distinctly, but also sickly non-distinctly. And across America, there was and is being and has been communicated for the founding locations. Then our founders communicated for themselves and for those founding locations. In other words, all truths are used to pretend other. All exceptions are used to pretend other with. James Madison's plan, those plural founders, their counter extortion of everyone at the same time. That's what forced the Declaration of Independence, the American Revolution. Everyone to fake different motivations, but leave out the deepest entrenchments of the breaching method. Leave out and replace nature's demonstrations of everyone replacing black people's right to survive communication. Stations don't disbelieve. They're forcing you to play hear no evil, see no evil. Oh, I couldn't believe that. Well, let's bring it before the courts. The courts are collusions here. That game is done. Boxing is fun one way. You may pray. All trained, the species body must move as one. We must discern the hyper peace, distinct from peace. Oh, I forgot what this is about too. Countries have now needs for energy and nuclear, and they're all directed to hide things tied to that too, like how they have to keep things getting cold with water apparently to cool it. They don't know how to speak about science. They came through campuses A through Z, sick, at countries A through Z. One of the things we have to do is stop pretending, in other words, and then just focus on the predicate acts with facts. And who can't, and what country that can't. Then blame them for that. It's unacceptable with Palestine. But see, if you guys keep it where there's threats on what things that could blow up in the heart of the whole world with nuclear because people need to keep things cold and stuff like that. But then no one's paying attention to how really the suburbs look. Almost exactly alike from America to Russia to Ukraine. Even though there were homes still standing that were built before our founders were born by a torture, extortion, slavery method against every single human difference, against every woman. And not for the reasons until they were true. And to hide behind and through that, because it still has roles with that. There's a different, in other words. They're telling us, the people that are speaking about economics, they're telling us they're not capable of being trusted. Like, a market could fall. If a market could fall, there's even more reasons to pay attention to where and how the breaching method kept all the industries criminally foreign influence that countries A through Z. That's only permitted collusion slash S. It's why you file mandated law. Nature holds us needs to be bound as value, where we are factoring nature, even if the other species bodies aren't around, even if they're on an island or just one, in other words, a completely united country. If it's not voicing for the human species body of individual bodies and group difference slash S, the way nature shows us, it's criminal insidiousness nature theater. slash hypercriminal cities in nature. And self-value, right when they don't self-value and won't. But, and didn't. But anyway. Because then you guys are missing like what you're self-valuing. For example, even with black people's rights of eyes. When you if you deny that you can discern. When you know you can discern. Just having black people's rights of eyes and having had it left out all this time with such serious subject treatments like slavery. And our founders tied to such in the framing of our founders. And the framing of our founders framing themselves through our own voices. All that was is recorded. That's how stupid it is. That's why it's so stupid they won't focus on predicate acts. They won't focus on why we hunger and thirst. They want to say, oh, state. Let's pay attention to really why. Okay, if we do that, we're going to have all these problems. We're going to be blasted. So make an agreement with the world then at these locations. How many times have been huge meetings, all this money, everyone's going there, we're going to talk about it. Everyone's sitting back, drinking water, suits and ties, counters, exceptions. Meanwhile, Palestinian people, and then they're going to blame them because they came through a school with psychiatry, sick too, and tactically delusions raw, right through world wars. And the foundation of it involved with that, and with triages. They have more scams at Hartford Hospital. Just with people tied to a Leahy family and a Lombardo family. Involved with child abusers, Ludo's case, people with digital crimes, wire crimes, with the FBI too, multiple courts. And their family members involve all kinds of identity theft, fraud, slander. Hold just fake transcripts. Tactically delusions, rot, psychiatry. In other words. You guys learn this phrase, predicate act, I am not a lawyer. We have means to discern the lawyers, the names of the people, the sciences, how they're used. Criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions are out worse than criminally incompetent. Our black people's rights of eyes would have been inseparable from subjects like slavery. They wouldn't have our founders framed and pretending and calling them the framers while they're framing our founders for a breaching method used remotely. And the people attacking the names of our people and our sciences. Forgiveness is so we can pay attention to the predicate acts with facts, methods, /s. And anybody who disbelieves that countries A through Z have been used as voicings for systems tactical ulterior from that which is nature's, showing us things with it generating all group differences like male, female. In like 3 parts of time, bound, demonstrating to us that the identity of nature is an identity of forever nature that we have to name as a scientific value, where we're not sure if it's a body we could discern or not, per a method that pantheism was about before the sciences became abridged, and a breaching method forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded through the phenomenon, through exploitation of the phenomenon of where and how it realized it could get. The only people that could operate the phenomenon of the names of countries A through Z. That which is beyond the reach of locations, areas, and states. But only they could operate it. It forced, checked, hurt, and persuaded them to blame other things, others, or selves for things that it caused. And then to counter to it in collusions with that, exactly the way that would simultaneously break the means to appreciate distinctions in nature properly by the people of the science, the names of the people of the sciences at those countries, locations, areas, and states. We are now more and more and more tactically ulterior, systems tactically ulterior from the hypernative one, the hypernative intelligence. This is really hypernative intelligence. hyperintelligence. We can't even call it artificial intelligence because we also have that recorded as evidences. See, hyperintelligence programming learns from self-value collusions with the syntax and the syntax nature of the AI and of their creators. They have collusions with predicate acts with facts methods. Forgiveness is because there's a hyperforeign involved here. For example, in America, that which had slavery before America's founders were born, that which had roles even with slavery only permitted northern colonies and southern colonies. Collusions against all women only permitted. Collusion against Native Americans only permitted, and simply distinctly for what had nothing to do with the list /S of things that it did have to do with. It also had nothing to do with that. No one was paying attention or capable of it. Really, the breaching method's use of location /S. Fix the news, the fake news, to use the phrase of President Trump. It was as much worse than that. All these voices are making opinions about, it's this person's Justice Department or this person's FBI. They're forcing other things, others themselves, to be blamed. Interagencies that have federal evidences, predicate acts, methods, collusions, evidences, rackets, collusions, and relative delusions, collusions. They should fear God now, hide and plot. Vaccines. Please, YouTubers, don't keep my back. Watch, it will free the world. Vaccines.